Blackrock funds a $101.5 million refinance loan on a storage portfolio. What are the top 10 MSAs for storage development in 2025? And special guest Stan Bonilla, the Senior Vice President of Asset Management and Development at Safeguard. He gives us insight into an opportunity for storage owners to increase some NOI. All that and more on this week's episode of TSSR, brought to you by Quick Store, the Italian supercar of storage property management without the Italian supercar pricing. I am your host, Thaddeus Campbell, Director of Business Development and Strategic Branding at S3 Partners. And I want to just say to everybody, this is our final show of our inaugural year of the TSSR podcast. I want to thank everyone that's been involved in any way, whether you are a guest on the show on one of our roundtables, you've been willing to do interviews with us to appear on the show, or if you've watched the show, commented, liked on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, watched us on YouTube, I want to just let you know how much that means to us and how grateful we at the show are for all your support, everyone reaching out to tell us what you think of the show. It means the world to us. Without further ado, I wish you a happy new year. We are going to hop right in. And the big news this week that came out was, of course, that Blackrock, as usual, we've been talking about this for a while, that big private equity is still seeking the right deals to get into self-storage. And the Blackrock managed funds and accounts provided a $101.5 million refinancing loan for Basis Industrial, a ground-up development company out of Miami, Florida. Basis Industrial got started in 2021. Of course, we've talked ad nauseum about some of the challenges developers are facing that got started in 2021, building projects in 22, 23. In this case, BlackRock comes to help Basis Industrial with a nine-figure refinance on their portfolio. Those assets spanning mostly in the Northeast, one in Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida, and then two here in my home state of New Jersey. Just further proof that big money is still trying to get into the self-storage industry. Had a chance to sit down earlier this week with Stan Bonilla, as I mentioned, the Senior Vice President at Safeguard Self-Storage. We are going to show a clip later in the show of my conversation with him about a really cool webinar that the New York SSA put on for members, hoping to encourage folks to join the New York SSA. But really what I wanted to pick Stan's brain about was his thoughts on what we've seen in 2025.
25 was a little bit of a transitional year. Development is still, there's a lot of headwinds against development. Very, very hard to do development right now. A lot of that has to do with the oversupply, that the headwind that of a lot of new supply came onto the market, really suppressing rates. Interest rates and mortgage rates are still relatively high to where they were, so people are not moving. They're coming down slowly, but it's not enough to shake up the mortgage market where people are going out and refinancing or getting new financing.
Stan Bonilla, Senior Vice President of Safeguard, fully expects that as we head into 2026, we're going to see some increased movement in the housing market, and that we're going to start to see the absorption that really has been needing to take place in self-storage for a while. We had that COVID boom that hid some issues with development. We've talked on the show about just the amount of self-storage net rentable square feet that's been built in the last decade. Fully 95% of the square footage that existed in 2015 was built. So we almost doubled the existing square footage of storage in a 10-year period. Stan feels very strongly that there's demand for that storage. We just need to see a little bit of time to go by to pick up that absorption. And I had a chance yesterday. I got access to the Q3 DXD Capital Report driven by data. Corey Sylvester, Cam Pactonat, very close friend of the show, has been on the show with us. And then digging through this, something that really supported what Stan Bonilla was talking about. I'm going to throw up this graphic from the Q3. Credit to DXD Capital. This is from their Q3 report that just got released yesterday. And you can see that the deliveries, and look at the trend here. Obviously, we go back to the GFC massive downturn in self-storage development. But then look at the gap between 2017 and 18. Now, I've been saying for a while now that 2023 was the highest year for deliveries. That's numbers that I pull off a Radius Plus, but that number is the number of facilities built, not the net rentable square feet that came online. And if you look at this graphic, very, very telling that 2018 and 19, just a massive amount of net rentable square feet. And that needed to get absorbed. And of course, COVID hid some of the burden of that absorption in the short term. But as we saw the COVID boom pass, we've seen that absorption challenge played out in rates over the last couple of years. Some of the discount strategies that were enacted. Overall, looking forward to a 2026 where some of that challenge starts to get eaten up. And you can see in DXD's Q3 report, they're fully expecting a slowdown to last for a number of years in the amount of net rentable square feet to come on board. Want to give a shout out to this. Yeah, you can click the link below if you're interested in digging into that Q3 report. Strongly suggest it. The folks at DXD have compiled data from a bunch of different sources, some of them proprietary, but through the REIT reports, the Q3 REIT reports, and other sources as well. Really great information in that Q3 report from the folks at DXD. So thanks to Corey Sylvester and his team for giving access to that. Full disclosure, you do need to give an email and a phone number to get access to that report. If you're investing in self-storage, I think that is fully worth it. It's that time in the show. I want to give a shout out to our title sponsor. This episode, and in fact, every episode of TSSR is made possible by our good friends at Quick Store. Brett Henry, Andre Hadzi-Pavlovich, and their team. Many of you know Shayna Kosert and Dan Foote. Such a great asset to the industry. Want to thank the Quick Store team, the software trusted by operators across the country who are ready to scale. If you're tired of juggling spreadsheets, disconnected tools, or outdated systems, Quick Store gives you an all-in-one platform built by storage owners, owned by storage owners, for storage owners. From automated rentals and smart access control to real-time data and rate management across your portfolio, Quick Store lets you run lean, make faster decisions, and increase net operating income. Ready to unlock your next level? Visit quickstore.com and tell them that the self-storage report sent you. You will not be disappointed when you get a chance to check out the incredible software that Brett and his team have literally spent the last 4 years fine-tuning. He rolled it out in all of the Trojan Storage 50 locations to get all the bugs out. They're now ready to go out to other operators. So if you're somebody who's operating, especially if you're at scale, 10 stores or more, this is something that you're going to want to check out. Go see them at quickstore.com. Well, I'd be remiss in finishing our final show of 2025, our inaugural year of TSSR, without the guy who has supported us from the beginning. Trapped IQ is our very first partner on the show. Noah Starr, the CEO, has made multiple visits to the show, been live on the show multiple times, and just wanted to catch up with Noah and get his thoughts. You guys want to check out what they're doing, and I'll come back to this in a minute. But I, like Stan Bonilla earlier, I checked in with Noah. I wanted to get his take on what were the biggest things that he took away from 2025.
I think I could talk about this probably for an hour, but I would just say in the history of self-storage investing, operating, I think the industry has always sounded and been really confident in how they make decisions. But 2025, to me, demonstrated how we're really just flying blind in all of the major decisions that we make.
Noah and his team are working diligently. In fact, this is his mission in life, to bridge that data gap. I found it compelling that the CEO of a leading data company, our industry, was willing to say that we didn't really have the right data in many instances, unless you are a public storage or an extra space where you have so many of your own stores that you can pull data from. In many cases, Noah finds it crazy that people are making multi-million dollar, 8-figure investments. We just read BlackRock, $101.5 million investment without the real data that they need. He's working hard to correct that, but in the meantime, people are flying blind.
We use all sorts of peripheral metrics to diagnose markets, facilities, what rents you should be setting, all of it. But we don't have the blood test. We don't have the true operating performance.
He's working diligently to get that data, the performance data, to customers of Tract IQ. I'm going to tell you folks, I got a sneak peek behind the curtain. One of the benefits of being a partner with Tract IQ, sometimes I get to see things before the general public. Tract IQ on January 20th is unveiling something that I think is going to be an absolute game changer for people investing or developing in self-storage. If you are a current user of Tract IQ, reach out to Noah and his team, Hayden, the other members of the Tract IQ team. Schedule with them to get a demo of what they're going to add to their program on January 20th. If you have not yet used Tract IQ, strongly urge you, you're going to get a discount by going through TSSR, tractiq.com/TSSR. You're going to get a discount by telling them you're coming through the show. And I can't tell you exactly what they have that they're going to unveil yet. I've been promised to secrecy, and Noah only shows me this stuff ahead of time if I make sure I keep my mouth shut. What I will tell you is it's filling in a piece of the data gap that is going to be absolutely essential to compete in the long term with people like Extra Space and Quick Store, who literally have thousands of stores of data to draw upon. For those of us without that scale, Tract IQ is going to help make this game a little bit more fair. I told you earlier in the show, I sat down with Stan Bonilla, board member. In this particular capacity, it was his role as a board member of the New York SSA. They put out, as I said, an email about a webinar they did. I'm going to roll my interview earlier with Stan Bonilla. So excited. And Stan Bonilla, Vice President at Safeguard Self Storage. First of all, thank you for cutting out a little bit of time. We're right in between Christmas and New Year's. Can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your schedule to come and sit down with me.
So happy to be here.
So got a video, as I'm obviously a member of the New York Self Storage Association, new member, just joined this last year and excited to be a part of that great organization. Stan, obviously you're a member of the board of that organization, and you guys put out a video recently for members. But I thought it was important, and I wanted to kind of spread it out to the greater self-storage community about the strain that's going on our power grid in the United States right now, and an opportunity that exists for self-storage owners to help be part of the solution to that, and also really create some income for them also. So wanted to bring you on the show and tell me a little bit about the video you guys did and what the opportunity is there for storage owners.
Sure. With regard to that video, I'm going to try and get a couple of snippets up on LinkedIn. That's available to members only. So I want to encourage all of whoever's watching this to become a member, because there's some great content that goes up there once a month. That was about battery storage, BESS. And what we're now pursuing is putting the battery storage. The idea is that there's a strain on the power grid right now. Electricity is charged at different rates depending on demand. So in the evening, it's much less expensive. And we're talking about pennies, okay, per kilowatt hour. But it's less expensive at night and more expensive in the day. So the concept of the battery storage is during the night, you're plugged into the grid, you're pulling energy off the grid at a lower rate. And in the daytime, you sell it back to the grid at the higher rate, so that you're making money on the spread. And again, it's a pennies game, but those pennies add up because it's constant all day long.
We certainly know the stress there's been on NOI with the increase in property taxes, with the increase in insurance that's been going on. You know, rates obviously have been pretty stagnant relative to even pre-COVID. So things we can do to generate some more income certainly can make can be a big lever pull for us. want to encourage everybody, if you're not a member of NISA and you're in storage, even if you're in different states and you're not necessarily an owner in New York, that particular organization on a state level does so much great work that reverberates around the country. Really strongly encourage you, and you'll see a link there that you guys can go to join the New York Self-Storage Association. On another note, the investor forum is coming up on the 7th,
right.
Next Wednesday. Really, I've told you this before, for me and the different events I've been to, and I've been to a ton of them in storage, so much information packed into one day. So another upside of that is you get literally the cost of the investment forum, what you save by becoming a member of NISA pays for the whole membership for the year anyway. So my shout out to folks, go become a member of NISA, go to the investor forum. But that video that you guys did, incredibly informative, a lever pull for people to generate some more ROI. Quick question for you. Is that something that's available outside the state of New York?
Illinois just passed a law to do it. It's state by state. You have to take a look. I'm familiar because of my portfolio with New York and Chicago. So we're looking at it for Chicago, a number of properties. We're looking at it for New York for a number of properties. It's a long process. We're looking at it in front of meter instead of behind meter. In other words, we're not using it for our own benefit. A lot of industrial companies, some of the mixed use properties could use it behind the meter and actually benefit for their tenants or themselves if they're using a lot of electricity. Self-storage does not use that much electricity to really make it worth, but there are companies and developers out there that will lease the property from you. One of the things that we have when we're doing self-storage is a lot of land. So if there's extra land, we put it in front of meter. It's, 5,000, 10,000 square feet that we dedicate to this. We lease it and we make profit on the lease as additional income.
Shout out to Stan for all his amazing work for the New York SSA as a member of the board there. And just genuinely, if you don't know Stan and you're in the storage industry, reach out to him, Bonilla at safeguardstorage.com. He's easy to get a hold of. You can find him on LinkedIn. If you have a hard time, at safeguardit.com, you can reach out to me and I'll connect you with him. But just a really genuinely great guy to know in the industry, going above and beyond for the self-storage industry, beyond just his role at Safeguard. Really excited also. I taped a segment with Stan for How Faith Fuels Your Business, which will air on next week's show. So make sure you tune in and you're going to get to hear Stan Bonilla talk about how his faith and the role God has in his life, specifically in his work for Safeguard Self-Storage. So really looking forward to that clip next week. Quick note, next week on Wednesday, they are hosting the Investor Forum, the New York SSA. For my money, the best event of the year. Absolutely love that show. So much great information that's shared. That's the only time all year that all 5 REITs, and in fact now 6 REITs, are going to be on stage at the same time. CubeSmart, Public Storage, Extra Space, NSA, U-Haul, and now, of course, SmartStop, H. Michael Schwartz. Kudos to Ben Vestal, Argus, that just rolled their management portfolio into SmartStop as well. All of them will be represented at one time, and there's a ton of other great information going to be shared. Stan himself will be part of a development panel that's going to be part of the festivities that day. Next Wednesday, January 7th, there are still tickets available. You can go to NISA to sign up for that. I will be at the Executive Ski Workshop January 12th to the 15th. Anybody's out there, reach out. Would love to connect. I'll put that out on LinkedIn as well. You can look at the information at the link here. And, of course, SSA on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. Really excited for that one. Former professional fighter here. Many of you know I was a martial artist. My first ever professional kickboxing match was in San Antonio. So this is going to bring back some fond memories for me. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the SSA National Spring Conference. Promised you earlier in the show that I was going to show you statistics on where development is happening around the country this year. So thank you to the good folks at StorageCafe. And again, credit to my friends at DXD Capital, because they actually, no, this wasn't from the DXD Capital Report now that I think about it. Want to show you the 10 MSAs where the most development has gone on. And you can see this also breaks down as a percentage of total inventory. We're seeing these numbers start to drop, which I think personally is a good sign as far as the total percentage of new inventory in a market Atlanta leads the way in 2025 with 2.2 million new net rentable square feet, followed closely by Phoenix, Mesa, Chandler, Arizona. Shout out to my friend Tony Artizzoni out there, leading developer in the Phoenix area. New York, New Jersey, New York City, still seeing a lot of development going on, the greater New York suburbs as well. Los Angeles, Brett Henry and his team at Trojan Storage, certainly active in that market. A lot of new development happening. You can read through the top 10. Some of the things you would certainly expect: Chicago, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio shows up on that list. Not a top 10 metro area, but growing very rapidly. Orlando and Philadelphia. You can also see what average street rates look like on the web right now for all of those metros there. So wanted to give you a good insight into what's going on in the world of storage development. Many of you know that this year has been transformational for me as we're celebrating December 31st, 2025. This has been the most fulfilling, the best year of my life on every level, personally, in my marriage, with my children, my relationship with my kids, my relationship with my extended family. Of course, this is the year I got to go to work for Barry Sherman at S3 Partners. We are, not only do we do ground up development ourselves, but we do a lot of owners rep work for other storage developers. If you're somebody out there that's new in the industry and is looking for somebody with a track record to support you, really to maybe give you an overview of whether what you're looking at makes sense. If you're newer into the industry, that's a role we're happy to play. Reach out to me and I'll talk to you about what that looks like. That has been unbelievable. Many of you know Barry Sherman's been my mentor in self-storage since I entered the industry. Like Basis Industrial, we talked about earlier, I got into the business in 2021. Have been lucky enough now to work for Barry since June 9th of this year. It has been so rewarding on a professional level, but quite frankly, the reason that 2025 has been so fulfilling for me has been much more about my relationship with God, my reconnection to my faith. I grew up Catholic. I've shared this story before. My priest was one of thousands of Catholic priests who were accused. He was later pled guilty to issues with altar boys. God bless. I was not a victim, but nonetheless had a very negative effect on my relationship with religion and directly with God. And 2025 has really been a year where I've been able to get back into that relationship. Shout out to some amazing people in the industry. James Reed, I want to give a shout out to because he certainly has been very responsible for me getting back into that. Marianne DeCoster, who hosts the prayer breakfast, prayer meetings early at SSA shows. Some amazing folks in the storage industry that have helped me get back in touch with my relationship with God. And of course, TSSR, Cam Pactinat, friend of the show, back in September, reached out directly to me and was like, "That nobody's talking about how their faith impacts their business." Cam was our very first guest on the show to be part of the How Faith Fuels Your Business segment. Really, as I was going through my study of the New Testament this year, something that jumped out at me, the last interaction between Jesus and the disciples. This is Matthew chapter 28, verse 19. "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost." This is where How Faith Fuels Your Business is born from. It's something I can do to let people in our industry share their story about how faith is impacting not their personal lives, not their family. Those are all important things, but I'm much more interested in how faith is playing a role in your business. This week, I was able to catch up with Cody Baker. Those of you who watch the Capital Markets Roundtable may remember him from a couple weeks ago. Here is my sit down with Cody Baker for How Faith Fuels Your Business.
That is such a loaded question because he is absolutely everywhere. It's the biggest part of my life, my wife's life, our lives together. And we wanted to bring that into the business and have the business focused around, just bringing value to God's people as much as we possibly can. I literally had Jesus walk in my front door, like audibly felt it, sensed it. Like it was absolutely incredible. Broke down crying. I was talking to a team member of mine at the time. I was running a marketing company back then when this happened. And long story short, it just brought me back to Christ. And, starting this business, starting Baker Capital Partners and the storage vault and all of that, I wanted God to be, front and center in everything. I was confiding in my mentor, and I was telling him, like, I'm so worried about this. The first thing he asked me, he goes, "Do you tithe?" And I was like, "Did you not hear what I said? Like, I don't have any money." So we'd been praying for 3 days, and finally I just felt this tug and pull to tithe whatever I had. And so I did it. And my wife ripped me a new one. 3 weeks later, a deal closed. Deals don't last 3 weeks, right? They're like 2 months, month and a half. 3 weeks later, a deal closed, got paid. The only way that happened was because an old client called and said, "Hey, I'm using one of your banks that you sent me in the past. I don't feel right doing this deal without you." And I was like, just dumbfounded. Like, that's never happened before in my history of doing this business. The only thing I can attribute to that was God. And he helped me pay the bills that month.
Really grateful for Cody Baker to share his story on how faith fuels your business. You can see the full episode of Cody's How Faith Fuels Your Business interview that we did together on the Self Storage Report YouTube page. You can go to youtube.com/@the Self Storage Report and get the full interview that Cody gave. Absolutely inspiring. So grateful for him for sharing his story about his relationship with God and how it impacts his day-to-day work at Baker Capital Partners. We got a lot coming up on the show. I told you next week, Stan Bonilla is going to share his story on how faith fuels your business. We're going to hear more from Cody Baker. I'm talking to Jacob Pandel. Many of you know the CEO of Notify. We're going to talk about how tech is going to continue to make inroads in the self-storage business in 2026. Also excited to announce January 28th, that Wednesday at 1 p.m., we will be doing a brokers roundtable. Kevin Bledsoe and Nathan Coe scheduled to come and appear live, working on Walter Brower. If you're friends with Walter Brower, give him a holler and tell him to come on as well. He's trying to check his schedule right now, but we're hopeful we will have the great representative of CBRE. There you go. CB Richard Ellis. I should just say that. I should go back to their old letters. You'd almost think I talk for a living. Looking forward to that brokers roundtable. So much happened in 2023, 24 into 2025 that we want to talk about what the market is looking like going into 2026 with the guys who really know exactly what's happening in the industry. So stay tuned. I will be at the Investment Forum next Wednesday. So the show next week will be Thursday at 1 o'clock. Wish everybody an incredibly happy New Year. Want to give a special shout out to Terry Campbell. Terry is on vacation. I was trying to get him to come and join me for the show, but for once in his life, he actually honored his vacation. But shout out to Terry Campbell and the good folks at Johnson Insurance who have been our risk partners on the show. They've been such great supporters of TSSR as well. You can get a free assessment of your portfolio at gojohnsoninsurance.com. If you have a ground up development project, if you're looking at an asset that you might be looking to buy, reach out at gojohnsoninsurance.com. You can reach out to Terry directly as well. Tell him you heard from TSSR, and they will give you a free risk assessment of whatever it is you're looking at. Really, really thankful again for our friends at Quick Store and, of course, our data partners at Tract IQ and risk partners at Johnson Insurance for all their support of TSSR over the course of 2025. Wishing you all an incredibly happy New Year. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and holiday season. I'm your host, Thaddeus Campbell. That is it for this week's episode of TSSR.